Hello and welcome to another episode of the Corner 3 here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Cale Berger, Saunders here with you. Just a duo today, but still got a lot to talk about regarding Pitt. Especially, we'll start off with the Panthers and some recent news with them, and then we'll talk a little NBA talk and one of the, many trade rumblings happening this time of year as we approach the holiday season. But Alan, first things first, it's been kind of a tumultuous week, last 2 weeks for the Panthers. You have the graduate transfer guard Sidney Deer going down with an injury. He'll miss about, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks with a leg injury. And then you have P. Silagoma, the center, and you have Shamil Stevenson, kind of the guard-forward combo. Two guys that weren't getting a lot of playing time, but both decide to transfer from the program. These are some losses for the. I mean, Deer was clearly, a much larger contributor than the other two. But how do these losses for Jeff Capel's team kind of impact this team moving forward?
I think when you lose depth, it's a couple things. One, obviously, it's, I think the starters have to play with a higher consciousness of their foul trouble at this point.
Yes,
You have Xavier Johnson at the point, and then Terrell Brown and Kenneth Chukwuka. They cannot be in foul trouble. There's just no one. There's not enough depth now.
Exactly.
You can't have multiple guys in foul trouble, and I think that does. It's going to limit some things. I think that Jeff Capel can do. I think it kind of takes the press off the table because you're not going to want Xavier Johnson. You're going to want Xavier Johnson to play probably 30, 32 minutes now without Sidney and Deer. And so it's going to be tough to press for 32 minutes as a point guard.
Exactly.
So I think it kind of takes that off the table. I think they'll probably play more zone. They played a lot of zone in yesterday's game. I think they'll probably play more of that. Just it keeps guys out of foul trouble. It's easier to play that defense and stay in control. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is obviously if you get more injuries or you have more losses, then you really get into a crisis where you don't have enough players to finish a game. I mean, they're still playing with 9 scholarship players right now. That's enough. I mean, a 9-man rotation is plenty.
Yeah.
But you get a couple more guys banged up, and then all of a sudden it's 7, and that's very questionable.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I think the final thing is it hurts you in practice. Peace was the only other big besides Kenneth Chukwuka and Terrell Brown that they have, which means there's no one to scout against now. I mean, because those two guys are part of the regular rotation. They no longer have a big guy on the scout team. They no longer have they have Samson George, who's 6'7", but that's really the only kind of small forward on the scout team. And so it just makes it, and it's just fewer bodies. It makes it tough to go long in practice and to push these guys, and that's going to have to change some. In fact, they said it's already changed some of the way that Jeff Capel's run practice. I don't know that the total sum of all of that, how it translates into wins and losses, but it certainly changes the dynamic of the team a good bit when you lose 3 guys like that.
Yeah, I think obviously Sidney and Deer is the most crucial one for this team, and what his role is he kind of serves as that calming presence for this team. And early on in the season, especially when Xavier Johnson was still trying to figure some things out, he was having success, but also at times was having some struggles. Sidney Deer was that guy who would come in and kind of calm things down, get the offense rolling again. He was a great presence on defense as well, creating turnovers, getting steals. That's big that he's not going to be there now. And from what I've read is he's still engaged in practice. He's still obviously a big part of the team, and as you would like him to be. But this is now an opportunity for guys like Trey McGowan's to step up. Xavier Johnson's already been great, but to step up as well. Trey McGowan's had his career high last night against New Orleans, so he's clearly benefited from that or stepping up already. I think you talked about in practice not having those guys as well, or especially Peace, but I think Shamil also in terms of because he's not the biggest guy, he's only 6'6", but he's still a bruiser. He's still a body that's going to throw his weight around, and what Terrell and Kenny Chukwuka are going to have to deal with. But I don't think that the issue with Shamil was a skill level per se. I just think he didn't fit into Jeff Capel's plans. I think the problem with Shamil, or not the problem, but the issue he runs into is that he is a great skill set if he was 3 inches taller or 3 inches shorter. And the problem is he's just in that tweener, in between middle ground where it's kind of difficult to find a place for him where he was going to fit in. And credit to him for realizing that he wasn't going to have an opportunity and he wanted greener pastures, and he announced yesterday that he would be transferring to Nevada, which is the number 6 team in the country right now. So it's not like Shamil Stevenson is no slouch. He just clearly wasn't in Jeff Capel's plans going forward, and good for him to move on and find a good landing spot in the Nevada Wolfpack.
Yeah, I think it's tough because just Pitt, the way Pitt is roster's built right now, they're not that big. And so they're going to play small, but they want to play small and quick.
Exactly.
And Shamil is small, but not really quick. He's more of a thick guy. He's athletic. But he's like a more physical player that really, I think, actually really benefited a lot from Kevin Stallings' offensive sets, where he got himself into situations where he could use his strength and his size to take advantage of smaller players. But when you're playing this small ball transition dribble drive scheme, that doesn't really work.
Exactly. Yeah.
It gives up any sort of advantage that he has. And so I think it was just mostly a scheme fit where he just didn't fit into what Jeff Capel's trying to do with this team, sort of the vision for it, playing outside in, I guess, with 4 guards on the floor most of the time. There just wasn't really a place for him. And I think if it had stayed on the team, there probably would have been some games where they ended up needing him for a matchup reason, or just for, if they were going to play a team where they felt like they had to adapt their style to fit their opponent, he could have been a very useful piece. But that's the way things go in college athletics these days. Obviously happy for Shamil. He found a good landing spot. I personally hate mid-year transfers because you lose a half a season from your career.
Exactly.
And, to me, I think waiting seems to make more sense, but he did find a very good landing spot in Nevada, which is a place that's sort of become the wayward home for transfers. And
exactly.
The way Eric Musselman has built that team has been very interesting to watch from afar, and I think it's kind of cool that that's been his niche and that they've made it work with a team full. I know last year, I think they've got some more players now, but last year they only had, I think, 5 guys. They played 6 guys in their regular rotation. 5 of the 6 were transfers. They had 1 guy that they had recruited as a freshman. So, and they're a veteran team that's losing a lot after this season too. Exactly. I think most of their regulars are seniors, and so Shamil will get an opportunity this time next year to probably find a role, and good for him.
Yeah, definitely. You're happy to see him move on and obviously find a good landing spot. And the last piece on piece here is that you talked about the issue when they get into foul trouble, and even though he wasn't playing a very large role, there were only 3 bigs on this team, and he was one of them. And now you're down to 2. And even though he wasn't having a lot of success when he had time on the floor, I mean, I think I read a stat that he averaged a foul every 3 minutes he played or something. So
it's about that.
So he wasn't really doing a great job of defending and staying out of foul trouble. So when he was in there, he wasn't really giving those guys a rest because he would get in foul trouble himself. But I think that you needed all the bodies you could have when it goes into this ACC play starting here in a few weeks, and to now be down to just 2 true big men, it's going to be even tougher because that's what we talked about going into the year, is how their size would be kind of a detriment to them and would be something they have to overcome. And now you're down to 2 guys, and you have and you're also losing Sidney and Deere. Depth is now kind of an issue, whereas we thought a few weeks ago that depth may have been a strength of this team. It's now becoming a concern. So we'll definitely have to see how this pans out for the Panthers. Last thing on them, Alan, you obviously were at the game last night against New Orleans. That was a 99-57 victory over the New Orleans Privateers. What'd you see in that game and how they looked in that first game without City out there, and just the way those guards were operating out there?
Yeah, we got to see Trey McGowan's run the point for the first time in a significant sample size, and he looked pretty good doing it. I thought he defended actually maybe more impressively than the way I always thought that he was capable of running an offense as a lead guard. I thought he defended really, really well. They turned New Orleans over 22 times. They got 32 points off turnovers. That's why they won the game. And he held on to the ball. I don't think he had a turnover. And he made some really nice assists. I mean, there was a play, I guess it was late in the first half where he kind of got stuck. He was dribbling in between two guys, picked up his dribble, and it was like a head fake, turn around pass to Chukwuka, an entry pass, and you see the skill there. And I think it all seems like there's not every game is going to go like yesterday where all three freshmen scored 20 points and Pitt rolls, but you see the potential there that they certainly are capable of those three guys, particular Xavier Johnson, Trey McGowens, and Audis Toney. They're really, probably the most exciting group of freshmen that Pitt has had, maybe since like Sean Miller. I mean, that's probably where it's at. They're just really impressive players. The skill level is off the charts, and they're only going to get better. And if Jeff Capel is able to get some help in the paint in this recruiting class, I think things will look very good for Pitt going forward.
And Trey McGowens was a guy that kind of had a little bit of success in those first few games of the season, but really tailed off over the next 6 or 7 games or so, whereas Xavier Johnson kind of just hit the ground running. And I think if that's kind of the blessing in disguise with City and Deer being out, is that this will be an opportunity for Trey to step up and to really kind of relish in that role of being, I guess, the second option or per se. And obviously it's against New Orleans. It's not a premier opponent, but I really like what I saw from him last night. Obviously the career high of 24 points. You mentioned those 4 assists as well. I think that's really good for his confidence going forward, regardless of the opponent. I mean, this team seems to be gaining their confidence and hitting their stride at the perfect time, and that's what you want. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good win for the Panthers. I mean, obviously the opponent wasn't top flight, but certainly it's the direction they want to be going in, and they eclipsed their win total of last year, now up to 9 wins in the season.
There you go.
So
and they've got Colgate coming in right after Christmas, which should be a pretty winnable game, although Colgate's better than New Orleans. And then we'll see, because it's North Carolina, it's Louisville, it's at NC State, who's playing really, really well right now. Florida State, Syracuse. Yeah, it's going to get tough real fast.
Yeah, so you definitely want to take care of business in these last few non-conference games, and then, hey, just get rolling with North Carolina on the 5th. It'll be a fun one at the Peterson Event Center. So. We'll see. I said at the beginning of the year, I think the Panthers have the potential to maybe pull off one of those, signature upsets somewhere down the line, I think so, in the ACC.
If you have a game like yesterday where those 3 guys can go off all together, sure, they can beat anybody.
Yeah.
They're also probably going to lose to most of the good teams in the ACC. Of course. They're just so good.
But you got 9 wins now in the season. Maybe we'll have 10 against Colgate. It's definitely steps in the right direction for this program. So it's good to see Jeff Capel having some success early on in his first year. But that's going to do it for our Pitt talk. I want to move on to our second and last topic for the day, and that is some NBA hoops here on the Corner 3, as you know, and now everyone starts to turn off.
The audience rating.
But there was kind of some big rumblings, I guess, over the last week and a half or so about Anthony Davis, arguably a top 3 player in the league, the center power forward for the Pelicans, potentially moving. He's only 25 years old, which every time I look at that, I gasp, because it's kind of ridiculous that he's only 25 years old. But rumblings about him potentially being moved or teams going after him. And the two that really came up were the Celtics and the Lakers. And the Celtics, especially because they're a team that's been linked to Anthony Davis pretty often over the last few years or so, as they've gotten Kyrie Irving and these young players and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and them kind of wanting to lure him there, create a package where they can get him there to pair with Kyrie Irving and win titles. Whereas the Lakers, it's LeBron wanting to pair up with another buddy. They're represented by the same company, Clutch Sports, I believe, LeBron's agency. So there's that tie there, but LeBron talked about it this week that he would love to play with Anthony Davis. It'd be a dream come true, he said. And, I mean, who wouldn't want to play with him? The guy is a physical freak. He's one of the best players in the NBA. And it kind of comes down to this question of, who has this better chance of landing Anthony Davis, the Lakers or the Celtics, because I think either team's going to want to make a deal this year or in the offseason because he has 2 more years after that. Then he's eligible for that Supermax contract that's going to pay him over $230 million at the end of his next deal when I believe he'll be 28 years old. So this is kind of that time where a team can put something together, have him for a few years, win some titles if they're trying to go for that. I mean, who do you think has the better chance of landing him, the Lakers or the Celtics?
I think it's an interesting question because I think you really have to think about why New Orleans would want to trade him and what they want.
Exactly.
Because, I just don't – I look at the Lakers roster and, I can't make a trade that works.
Exactly.
Right? Who do they want?
Well, and that's the thing is over the last 4 or 5 years or so, every player in the NBA has been linked to playing with LeBron James. But when the idea of trades and trade talk comes up, it's, well, what would they take? What would they get? What would someone want from the LeBron James team? And you look at the Lakers, they definitely have more young talent than any LeBron team before. But, I mean, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma is definitely intriguing. People want Kuzma. Brandon Ingram, I mean, the jury's still out. People want.
But even, all 3 of those guys, I don't think, does that do it?
Exactly. And then the rest of the roster is just filled with a bunch of older guys on 1-year deals that are just kind of mashed together to get 15 guys.
I don't see the Lakers, unless they can work some kind of 3-way trade or they want to trade 3 years worth of first-round draft picks or something crazy like that. I don't see them having the kind of players I feel like New Orleans would want to have back.
I mean, if you're New Orleans, I don't think you want to trade Anthony Davis, but you would if you were given an offer that you can't refuse. And apparently that offer that the Celtics are willing to present them is a deal that includes Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, where 2 of the best young players in the league at positions where I think the talent is less. There's less talent at the small forward and shooting guard positions, especially in terms of youth in the league than any other position. I mean, they're stacked at point guard, stacked at center. I mean, those are the positions you want. Those are the positions that win you championships, that have you give you success going forward. But if I'm the Celtics, I think I'm already one of the favorites to win the title. I mean, why am I going to give up and mortgage my future, even though Anthony Davis is just 25? But why am I going to give up a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old when I could win a title with them and win titles going forward because they're just getting better week by week?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense for the Celtics either, especially, I mean, it felt like it could have been a panic move. And we talked about the Celtics maybe 3 weeks ago, and things were not looking great. But since then, they've really
as soon as I bashed them and had some hot takes about who they should trade, they've kind of turned it around.
They've turned things around. They're not in a place where I feel like they need to mash the panic button. I think they're in a pretty good spot. The East is not overwhelming again, and so I don't know. It seems like there doesn't seem to be a normal, sensical trade here that makes sense for all parties. Maybe something gets worked out. Maybe something all the time we see trades and how did they ever agree to that? So I don't know. Maybe it'll happen, but I don't see one that just oh yeah, that just makes too much sense. It's definitely going to happen. I just don't see it.
I think if you're and you got to remember that the Celtics also have
and there's 20 other teams that would love to have Anthony Davis too.
I mean, there's 29 teams that would want Anthony Davis, but the Celtics also have picks as well going forward, so they can package still a bunch of those first round picks. I don't know if they have any Nets picks left. I really hope not for the sake of the Nets, because then that's just downright sad if they still had picks. But if you make a package with some first round picks that they have from other trades they made, or and package that with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. If I'm the Pelicans, I mean, I don't know how likely it is for Anthony Davis to want to return in 2 years' time and sign that Supermax. I mean, some guys are taking the money, other guys are saying, I mean, I'm making money elsewhere in endorsements, I want to win. And I don't think they have the roster and will have the roster to be able to have success and for him to win there. But if I get that offer from the Celtics, I mean, I'm taking a really close look at it, and I'm really considering it because those are 2 of the best young players in the league, especially Jason Tatum, who's turned into the second option on the Celtics. He's averaging 18 points a game. I mean, he is really quickly becoming one of the better players in the league, not just one of the best young players. But if I'm the Celtics, I'm fine. I mean, it's becoming, ever since I think Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, everyone's kind of on this arms race now, trying to get as many All-Stars, as many All-NBA players as they can. And even if they have established players already and already have a good team, kind of blowing things up and trying to just get better and better. We saw with the Raptors, who were the number 1 seed in the East, traded DeMar DeRozan, one of their best players in franchise history, to get better with Kawhi. And they're better now, but I'm not sure if the Celtics would be in their best interest to trade those young guys for Anthony Davis.
I don't think so. Even though Anthony Davis is phenomenal, especially not in the middle of the. I don't know.
They could win the title with who they have now.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't see the point in them making a deal for Anthony Davis. I think it's because Danny Ainge is just enthralled with him. He loves Anthony. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But he is over the last few years. It's come clear that he is obsessed with getting Anthony Davis in a Celtics uniform. Who wouldn't want that? But also, I don't think it's worth it to mortgage the future for Anthony Davis.
Do it next year.
I mean, yeah, do it next year. The price will probably go down because we only have 1 year left of control.
Yeah, it'll be like a pure rental situation, and then you
can always woo him and try to convince him. But you also have Kyrie Irving.
I don't know
now.
if they have the cap space to sign him anyway.
Well, that's the thing, and I already talked about trading Gordon Hayward, but they have Kyrie Irving's going to be free agent after this year. He's going to want to get paid as well. I think they clearly want Kyrie Irving. He said, "I would love to stay in Boston," quote, "if they'll have me." So he clearly wants to get paid, and then that just kind of opens up the doors.
Well, there's no way you're paying them both.
I mean, you could pay them both, but someone else has to go.
Yeah. A lot of someone's.
Yeah, and Horford's not making that much money compared to other guys around the league. He's older as well. Gordon Hayward's obviously the one with 2 more years left after this year, making a max contract. But the key to success in the NBA, it's honestly the key to success in the NFL too, is to have good young players still in those rookie deals, and that's what the Celtics have right now. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like the right idea for me, but we've heard it for weeks. We've heard it for years that the Celtics want to get him. Oh, just almost fell out of my chair.
Maybe it's not that surprising.
The effect that Anthony Davis has on us, how good of a basketball player he is. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like – I don't think the Lakers have any chance, and I think the Celtics would really be not in their best interest to go after Anthony Davis.
Is there another team you think that they could put together the package that would make sense? I'm really struggling off the top of my head to find a fit where I think they have the combination of young players that they could afford to trade and, obviously are close enough to winning a championship that they feel like Anthony Davis would be worth paying for at that point. And I just don't –
I look around. Yeah, I look around the league, and I don't see anyone with the assets and young players like the Celtics. But quickly here, just kind of a new report coming out in the last hour from Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN. NBA GMs are calling out LeBron for tampering with Anthony Davis, as he said the other night that it would be, quote, amazing to play with the 25-year-old All-Star. I mean,
I don't think that's tampering.
I don't think that's tampering either. I mean,
yeah.
LeBron making a statement. Plus, he's LeBron. He can kind of say whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I look around the league. I don't really see any other option. I don't see anyone else who could put together the type of package that could get him. And if you're New Orleans, I mean, you're only giving him up for the cream of the crop offer, and they're not going to get that.
Yeah, I think the offseason is the best time if they're going to make that trade this offseason. There will be more teams that are involved because – you don't start with the teams that thought they were going to be good, and now all of a sudden they're 12 and 18, and they're like, well, they're not going to. So I just think the offseason's a better time to make that trade in general, and yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to in any sport. It's so hard to trade away a player that good and actually get value for him back. It's really, really hard. You see those trades and the team that trades them away almost never gets what they really should.
Oh, of course. And I don't know the last one that was really fair.
Yeah,
I can't think of it.
No, it doesn't happen that often.
This kind of talk kind of reminds me of last time a big time young big man was traded. A little.
Oh yeah,
Shaquille O'Neal back here from the Magic to the Lakers. Some new decorations in the Beaver County Auto Studios. We try to switch up the jerseys every week, but But yeah, that's going to do it for us here today on the Corner 3. We thank you for tuning in, and as always, remember to subscribe. Helps us out a lot here at Pittsburgh Sports Live. And we also want to wish you a happy holidays to you and yours as well. We thank you for tuning in, and once again, this has been the Corner 3 on Pittsburgh Sports Live.